I'm so excited to have Dr. Melisa Cahnmann to the podcast. I learned about you with your work with another doctor another person in the field who talked about pushing against pushing. Right? And then as we were talking, I realized that you use dramatization in your work a lot. And I thought, I always think about the language learners, the multilinguals in my class who don't speak at all. And then when they go to drama classes, and at the end of the unit or end of the semester, the drama teacher invites us all to come watch, and then they're speaking, and then they're performing, and then I'm like, wow, what did I do wrong? Right? So I am so, and when you said, hey, I have a book, it's about dramatization and language development, I said, you had me there. Come on the podcast, let's talk about it. So, Dr. Melisa Cahnmann, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here, and I'm so happy you witnessed firsthand the joy and pleasure of drama in language education.
And it's such a pleasure for them too. There are no
Yeah.
worksheets, there's no boring drills, but yet they come out with this authentic, rich language. Even though it's scripted for them, they really blossom. And I'm like, wow, how do you do this? Anyways,
Mm, mm, mm.
well, can you introduce yourself in and let me ask you this question. What is something that you are extremely proud of in your profession?
Well, I'm feeling very proud right now to be invited to speak with you. I'm so proud when my work has an impact, and I would say there are so many moments of great joy, but listening to what was important to me, which was has always been the integration of the arts with education. Maybe I'll step back. When I was a first teacher, I arrived in South Central Los Angeles in 1992, and things were really tense. We had just had a brutal uh, occurrence of violence against recorded violence against an African American man, Rodney King,
Yes.
and it was, you know, the maybe the beginnings of being able to see when abuses of power were happening in our community, and it really shook the school that I was working at. I was a bilingual teacher, and we were a program with Latino and African American students. And I remember teaching the kids to perform a song for their classmates, for the whole school. And it was a rap song. And I remember it was through the music that the kids felt heard, and that they could express and share both their joy and their grief, their anger and their outrage, and their creative potential for change. It was a moving moment, and I thought, you know what, we need more of this in education. We need to somehow the standards for art
Yes.
were marginalized, but when they became the center of my literacy curriculum, there was so much investment. So many proud moments since then. I've carried that into teacher education. When I first came to the University of Georgia, I was convinced that dual language education was the absolute best way to go. And I observed those programs in various cities in California and Colorado and Florida and Washington, D.C., and I'd read about them. And when I came to Georgia, there was no bilingual education at all, not transitional bilingual education, early exit, late exit, nothing. It was ESOL at best, and even that was limited. And one of my first students took my bilingualism course and said, well, there's no bilingual school, I'm going to start it. And Del Perry Giles, she started the first dual language school in the state of Georgia. It was called Unidos, and it was near the Atlanta airport. And she could find only the district that was under the most duress, at risk of closure, would take her school. She looked far and wide. She opened that school, and then she was in the midst of doing her dissertation work, and she said to me, Misha, I can't write my dissertation. I have to focus on this school. And I said, you have to write a
Yeah, you
dissertation.
have to.
This is too important. Let's look to creative ways so that you can write it fluidly and from the heart. It doesn't have to be this burdensome piece of scholarship. So we looked her theory was John Dewey, and she creatively imagined if John Dewey were alive, what he might say based on what he had said, what ideas he might have about bilingual education. It would turn into a wonderful piece, very personal piece. And I was very proud of her for opening that school, the first, which now there are dozens and dozens of dual language schools based on that model. And the only wish I have is that she would write that darn book out of her dissertation, but we're still pushing for that.
At least
So
she
I think,
got. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah. Well, you had said something earlier on about the arts and how fun it is. And it is fun, but I always worry that people forget there's also deep rigor.
There is.
That the arts just enable us to push through that rigor, to persist, to do the hard work, to acquire the language and the theory that we need to because we want to, because of the joy makes it less of a burden, helps us all sing. So that's how I wanted to say.
We were earlier talking about Dr. Stephen Krashen and how he talks about comprehensible input, and he talks about comprehensible input has to be fun, right? And I know he doesn't really talk about comprehensible output, and dramatization is all about output as well. And you make that really fun for kids, right? And I've seen drama teachers or the schools that I've worked at to have done miracle work with kids who are reluctant speakers or who are that the affective filter is really high, but some reason that affective filter has been lowered. Right? It's so impressive.
Oh yeah, and the other thing is, they are able to produce the output also because of skillful, structured, limited choices. So you can do so much with the word yes and no. There's so much you can perform. In fact, that's one of the drama exercises in our new book, and I'll just flash it up here because I'm so proud of it. Enlivening Instruction with Drama and Improv, a guide for second language and world language teachers. Just having a group circle the many ways you can say yes. You just did one. That's right. Yes.
Or like, yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Or no.
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 No. So many things we communicate. No. No.
Well, that was a naughty no.
That was a yes, no.
That was fun. Would you walk us back and talk about your student who opened up the bilingual school? What did she learn about that? Because I love how we're meandering through this conversation where we'll go back to dramatization, but I think bilingualism is so important. Would you talk about that in her school?
Yeah, sure. She learned it's a hard battle to open up a school in a context, in a United States of America context where bilingualism is often seen as a threat or a transitional period toward English only American loyalty. This is, there are some who have great distrust of bilinguals, that somehow it shows you're not a true national. Now, as multilingual people that we are, we know how silly that is. But there are many people in this country and in this state that are worried. And so it was interesting that she started that school in the aftermath of the pushback against bilingual education in California, which is one of the most thoroughly, multilingual, bilingual. Spanish is such a strong historic presence in California, but there was a whole campaign with Ron Unz and Proposition 227 to do away with bilingual education, and they virtually did. They made it very, very difficult. And at the same time, we were just starting, Dell, with my support, was just starting bilingual education in Georgia, where I think the threat hadn't been perceived yet. So there was a lot of open arms, a lot of the good opportunity was seen, like, wow, my kids can learn another language much better than I could. So it was relatively welcomed once she got things started, which is why it has taken off so strongly. So after she began that school in Atlanta, another one of my students, who was then a master's student, went to her school, was also impressed and wowed, and started the second bilingual school in a much more rural area in Gainesville and Hull County, Georgia, and that's called the World Language Academy. That school was a stupendous success because it had the thorough support of the school district superintendent, who had sent his own children, as I understand it, to dual language. It was very familiar with it, had moved from another county to become the superintendent. So she had support all the way up and all the way down. And that school took off and is still going today, and it's going into middle and high school now. So kids are getting dual language, thorough bilingual schooling opportunities all the way through, and it's been wonderful. That first school that Dell opened has struggled. The school and the district has struggled, and it became, I think, just too much for her to keep doing. And she had become a parent and is now very happy working in a school district in Texas. So I think, we need networks of support. And that's one thing I talk about in the book. And what's another wonderful asset of theater is that idea of the ensemble, that if you're going to fight the bilingual battle, you can't do it alone. Everybody needs an ensemble, a cast, a crew, a stage set, someone who's in charge of props and tickets at the door. We need it all. This is not a solo activity.
I love talking to teachers and I love supporting districts, but the audience that I love the most is talking to principals and district leaders and superintendents, because one decision that they make can really impact their entire school and the entire school district, right? So we need both the grassroots, but also from the top as well. And so you speak about that ensemble. I love that. And I used to call it an ecosystem that supports language learners, multilinguals. But I also like the ensemble idea. Would you, don't worry about the dog, it's not a problem.
Okay. I'm like, oh my God. Just like, stop it.
No,
Hey, no. Shush.
What kind of dog is it?
It's a beagle mix. It's a rescue dog, and we got him during the pandemic. And so we're in love, but he's fiercely loyal and protecting our house from strangers right now who are coming in.
Amazon people, yes. Amazon deliverers, yes.
Yes.
Beagles are great. They're so naughty, aren't they? I have a beagle as well.
Oh.
Okay, let's go back. You talked about how I know that in a lot of schools right now, they are taking their kids away from art classes and PE classes. They're multilinguals. And I know you're frowning right now. Can you tell us about globally, why should schools fight and advocate for the arts to stay in the experience for multilinguals?
Oh my gosh. Well, don't get me started. Yeah, I think it's such a weird misconception that the arts are like an extra. That's the fun thing to do later, when the arts matter for so many reasons in and of themselves. They're not just handmaidens to content. Like, a lot of people mistake the arts as like, oh, that's that fun thing you do at the end of the literacy unit. They will draw, or after we've read the novel, then let's see the movie or something like that, as opposed to the arts in and of themselves shifting how we think, how we perceive the qualities of humanness and non-humanness around us. So I often will say I'm terrible at drawing, which is true and not true. I'm not particularly skilled at it because I don't do it all the time, but I picked up this a wonderful guide, and I've just been making myself draw, because I don't believe we should fix ourselves in good. You're either good at the arts or you shouldn't touch them. And I was saying the same thing with athletics. It's like we teach each other, you're either an athlete and you should play your team sport at your school, or you should take a back seat. But most people don't have an issue with playing basketball outside on the courtyard at the school, at the park, or their house, or with their neighbor kicking around a ball. We all do this. So I have a tree stump outside my house that I painted on the top, and I put the word stage. Maybe I'll send you the picture, because I want the kids walk by and they jump up. They knew it was a stage before I called it a stage. But I want the grown-ups also to know that when you have something to say, you just need to imagine that you can have a stage. That does not mean not preparing.
Yes.
I don't want to see flimsy art. I also don't want to watch people playing bad basketball. It's fun to play it. I'm going to play some terrible ultimate frisbee today, but I don't expect anyone to want to watch me until I'm really trained and good at it. But I also don't think we should take away the opportunity because people aren't trained. Now, that said, teachers are not trained to feel confident to teach the arts. And so it self-perpetuates. So we need opportunities for teacher development. We need to have rich opportunities that talk about the emergence of an artistic identity, and that there are different ways to be players. I would have loved to been Susan Sarandon. Like, I have an inner actress. I missed that, but I there's a place for me in my theater existence and talent to share the joy. I don't have to be Susan. We got a Susan. We have an Angelina Jolie. We have these beautiful, wonderful women actresses. I'm now smitten with a new actress whose name I don't know, but she's on this show called Hacks, and I'm just enjoying it so much. And The Watchmen. Oh my God, it's so much good television. It's the pandemic. My God. But I can't wait to see live theater. And I love to see non-actors acting and enjoying it for the first time. So why do we rob kids of that? We think, oh, they have to wait until they're more literate. They have to do the hard, grueling work of acquiring the basics of all the disciplines before they can get the little joy of, painting a portrait or standing on a stage and reciting a poem. I say you start with that joy and give access to the arts. So yeah.
I love what you said, and I wrote down arts help us see in so many different ways. And when you said that, I just thought about Dr. Rodine's Sims Bishop, and she talked about how books are like mirrors and windows and sliding glass doors. And I was like, yes, this is why we have kids see. We participate in art because then they see another world. They participate in another world. They get to see themselves in a different way. And so art does that in so many ways.
And their own creative potential, their own agency, that everybody is an artist, which means everybody can create something that doesn't exist yet. That's what's so important, is creating new understandings of what is possible. We're born into scripts. We're born into body scripts. We're born into the costumes of our skin tones and our, the circumstances of our lives. But if we can act, if we can learn that we can become someone else on a stage, then maybe we can become someone else on the stage of life. And this is Irving Goffman's ideas. Yeah.
That's what they said. This is why the literacy experts out there, they always say, have kids read books because they're practicing for real life with books. Right? And so it's the same way. The kids are practicing for real life. They become a different avatar. They live their avatar in real life because they get to practice that in drama. Right?
Yeah. And so I would add, if you replace the word practicing with rehearsal or rehearsing, this is where drama is such a wonderful metaphorical resource too. So we think, sometimes we think rehearsals make a false, like, oh, you're pretending, you're wannabe, you're not your authentic self. Well, none of us are our authentic selves. We're rehearsing ourselves every minute, every moment of the day. So we need to give many opportunities through literature, through performance, through song and dance, to stretch the body and the mind's potential.
Let's move towards let's narrow the conversation a little bit. Let's talk about why drama and language development in particular.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, so many have said it. You know, you mentioned, I'm not sure if you mentioned it here before we started the talk about Stephen Krashen and
Yes.
comprehensible input. I mean, he's a master of performance. And the idea that we need to rehearse communicative competence, that it doesn't just happen, but we have natural discursive turn taking that is acquired over a speaker's lifetime. And so if you're going to enter a new communicative system, you do need to understand what kinds of scripts tend to happen, and then you need to rehearse fluency. You know, proficiency and understanding things by a standard basis is one thing, but to be able to speak in a moment of improvised necessity takes time. You could, because otherwise, I'm sure you've been there as a multilingual when you become mute. I'll never forget it. You know, everyone says, "Oh, you're so fluent in Spanish." I do speak Spanish fluently, but when I missed my flight in Mexico City and I'm in the airport, all of a sudden everything I knew about Spanish out the window. I just wanted to speak in English because I was so stressed, you know?
Right. Right.
So all of schooling is filled with anxiety producing experiences of the test taking and you know, will you pass, and speaking to people in more formal registers and speaking to people who have gatekeeping roles in your life. I mean, this is like thorough ongoing anxiety. The actor learns how to cope with that and thrive with that anxiety, that anxiety, to name it. You know, we often talk about being having stage fright.
Right.
To identify it, this is something that happens. Stage fright happens in every interactional moment potentially, but somehow we need to rehearse the muscle to get through it,
Right.
and to be able to have studied enough to have a bank of knowledge that then we can improvise and draw upon it in an embodied moment to moment way. And that comes with practice in a safe place with an ensemble of caring peer learners and teacher.
Yes.
So, you know, I feel that language learning, one of the many limitations of classroom learning is the restricted kinds of conversations we can have. But as an actor, if you set up a scene, you can be anywhere. You can, the class can imagine using language at that airport, using, you know, we can really believe that we are in that moment and rehearse it over and over with a group. So,
I love what you said about giving kids a safe place to rehearse. Because once
mm,
they have that confidence, really it's a lot about many multilinguals are not speaking in their content classes because they feel uncomfortable. But they are speaking and they're performing because it's a really safe, structured place for them to speak and perform in drama classes because they're getting
mm,
to rehearse then. And then their confidence comes out. And then they're applying it to the content classes where it's more improvisational than drama
yeah,
classes, right?
yeah, yeah. If you're
Right.
in math class and you don't, if the math teacher encourages you to have a performance of, you know, play the role of the math teacher right now, what fun. You could imagine the kinds of language the kids are going to recall and become, you know, ventriloquists, but with their own spin on it for what their math teacher has been saying all along. So I just think we need to give students more opportunities to play those roles of expert, you know, and that's a really fun game, expert interview. I don't know if you've seen this on stage, but it's just a delight. And so you'll ask your audience or your classroom will say, you know, what could this actor be an expert in? And
Mm.
you can give any subject, and it's so fun. Be an expert in art history. And so then you set up two student actors to be, one, the expert. They may know nothing about art history, and then the interviewee. Now you could give the assignment, go quickly, take a day and learn all the words that could go with art history,
Right.
or
Right.
you just have it on the moment and see what they imagine
Right. Right.
could be, what an expert might say.
I'm thinking as you're talking about that, I'm thinking about my own class, grade 8. We finished the unit on explorers and colonists, and I could have easily had my kids as a formative assessment um, have them pretend that they are their explorer or their colonist, and then have
Mm,
the audience interview them, and they're going in and embodying that person. They're saying, yes, we came, we didn't We colonize. We purposely colonized. We purposely conquered because we wanted gold. And because I came from a poor place in Spain and I didn't have land, so now I have a lot of land in Mexico. Now I'm a noble knight, right? And so look all the language that the person is using. Look how rigorous it is because they have to use the content, right?
That's right. Absolutely. And you could have a rubric that lets the students know in advance, that you'll be looking for some keywords or, maybe helpful to record. But, it depends. Assessment can kind of sometimes get in the way of the greatest joyful productivity. So you have to be, I know a lot of teachers are worried about, well, how can I make sure they're getting how do I assess? Because there's so much pressure on teachers to assess. Right. So I think it's, I just want to give a nod to the voice of assessment and also how valuable it would be to do that as a pre-assessment activity so that they've rehearsed it without the pressure, anxiety of the grade.
Right.
And then have them write it up. Yeah.
We talked about your two words that embody who you are is professional and fun.
Yeah.
And that you're really speaking about that.
Yeah, make it rigorous, but make it a pleasure. I don't see why those have to be incongruous. They should go hand in hand. Not always. Sometimes things are hard.
Yes. Can we talk about that? Like, what are some strategies that teachers can use? Because there's drama class that kids go to, but we're trying to, the purpose of this conversation is try to help language specialists and content teachers add a little drama, a little bit arts into their class because it helps with critical thinking and language development and content acquisition. So would you talk about what are some strategies that teachers can do if they're not a drama teacher?
Well, they should get thee to an improv theater company if they can. I know I'm from Chicago where you can turn every corner and there's an improv troupe. Maybe in Philadelphia too. I'm not sure. I know there's a lot of theater going on in Philly, but I don't know about improv comedy. I'm sure there is in New York City. I mean, but where I am in Georgia, now we have more improv troupes happening in my town as well. It's not always convenient to attend, but I would say, one thing I would say for teachers that are truly interested is just try it. Find a place to try it. Now with Zoom, the pandemic has exploded opportunities where you can participate in wonderful drama classes online. I've taught tons of drama in these little squares. I'd say, this is my stage. And I say, I'll say, find an object on your desk and introduce yourself as that object, because a lot of the students are afraid to be on Zoom with their cameras. This has been a problem in the United States. So they'll grab an object. This happens to be a coaster that I have, and they'll say, "Hi, my name is Misha, and I'm feeling a little hungry right now because I didn't have breakfast. I was quite nervous about this interview, but it's very nice to be here, and I'm looking forward to eating later. Bye." And so this is just, what fun. Anything around you can become a prop. And it's just a delight to invite those invitations. And so I'm saying is teachers can learn very quickly some strategies. We've written up a ton in this book. It's, hundreds of different games. When I can, and now with Zoom teaching, I've been able to record a bit more. I do record when I'm playing as much as I can, because I know that reading about it is one thing. Seeing it in action is much more helpful, I think. And then third is playing. If you have a chance to do the game as a participant, then you're even more aware of how it runs and, what mistakes can be made or, and what joys come. And then fourth is teaching it yourself. So I say to teachers, don't be afraid to start with number 4, because that's the most learning. Read about get an understanding of a game and try it out and be prepared to fail. And that is one of the most essential, wonderful tips and tricks that arts teach you. You must fail. Yes. If you're not an artist, if you haven't failed over and over and over terribly. And this is a wonderful skill for lifelong living, is how to fall down and come back. So teachers do this all the time, but I would say, those are some of the ways to learn is, read about it, by all means, our book, we kept it a very low cost. Find the videos to supplement the reading so that you get a sense of how it's played. Try to take some workshops to play the games yourself. I go all the time. If I'm invited, I'll be happy to run, to demo some games on Zoom or live in person, hopefully. And then just try it. Yeah.
Let's talk about then the highlighting of your book then, because you spent some time writing it, extensive, a lot amount of time, lots of work, lots of ideas. Can you run through just the title of the chapters, and then just talk about a few of the chapters as a way of framing the conversation?
Yeah. And I'll give a shout out to my co-author, Kathleen Mcgovern. She joined our PhD program several years ago, and I was so excited because she's many things, including a wonderful actress herself with a lot of theater experience. And she just finished her PhD this last year, and it was so fun to work with her. So I always love to work on things with an ensemble, even an ensemble of two, and we've had a lot of joy. So the chapters, first we have an introduction, why and who should read this book, and what we mean by creating a classroom ensemble. And we put in the book a bunch of icons that help teachers quickly see, is this more of a literacy, a content activity? Is this writing? Is this speaking? Is it listening? To help, especially if you have to write those down and turn them into an administrator, to give some ideas for the language for why you're doing such a fun activity in the classroom, that it actually has some benefits for traditional academic learning as well. And we talk about assessment, and we call that access to profound joy. So you can see that I don't think there are many times in writing that you'll see assessment, access to profound joy together. So that should be an invitation. What on earth are they meaning? So then we go through drama basics, and how to scaffold success through drama in the language classroom. And I have a note on props and costumes and sets, and you saw a demonstration of one of those easy props. And of course, we address people's questions. A lot of people are very nervous. I can't do drama, a lot of naysaying, and we try to take that on head on. And also with recognizing students have varying abilities, and, there are shy students, there are students who just will not participate, how to allow different kinds of roles within a drama-based classroom. And then we go through the history, theory, and practice of critical second language drama education and language teacher artistry. And then we begin with the games. So that was chapters, introduction. Chapter 1, chapter 2 is sort of setting the stage for why and how to ground yourself, theoretically in the ideas of Mikhail Bakhtin, and awakening the spirit of carnival, of becoming your own agentive self. And then we go right into games that are wonderful for the first day of class, that you can recycle throughout the class, like getting to know you types of, this is how to start, easy ways to start, and some of our favorites. And then we go into warming up with little to no language. So like I said earlier, yes, no can become a whole drama game. How to give students the opportunities to perform in their L2, even if they have very little language, but how to make that accessible and inviting. And then we have Say It Again, Sam, rehearsing target language words and phrases. So, rehearsing things that one will say over and over, important segments, chunks of language. Then guessing games, which are loads of fun when like charades. We all know charades, but variations on charades where the audience is in on the joke or is also along for the ride of guessing what's going on. And they're just so highly motivating. And then we have for more advanced learners, improvising in chapter 7 with shorter stretches of language, improvising in chapter 8 with longer stretches of language. So that requires a bit more fluency, proficiency. And then the last chapter might be my favorite, is chapter 9, theater for agency, activism, and acting up with language. So, what it means to be able to be agentive with one word, with many words, and how to play some of the same games we have in chapters 3 through 8, but with social justice in mind.
Wow, it's really what a lovely book. You really start off with talking about the foundation, the theory behind it, and then chapters 3 to 8 are just the games, right? But they you've taken us from like beginners, right, all the way to more advanced students, right? And then you talk about like, but we don't learn this just to engage in school. We do this for activism, right? We
Yeah.
do this for agency. And I was like, yes, that's really great.
Oh, I forgot to say we have 2 appendices because we do it for agency, but we also have jobs to keep. So we do have an appendix with a lesson plan template, how to write this up, how to keep in mind what you need to have on hand, from anywhere from preparation of materials to a standard that you're addressing in your curriculum. And then we have a second appendix, which is how to teach using drama on Zoom. Not just Zoom, but any online platform. So things that we've learned, so many language teachers are, even before the pandemic, are teaching languages internationally.
Well, in your book, we have about 20 minutes left. Where would you like to highlight the chapters in your book so we can talk about them?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, that chapter 9 is really important to me, and I think I try to gentle the reader into thinking. I never want art to be about moralizing or political certainty, or, it's not necessarily with an activist agenda so much as it is with I guess, an agenda for the human spirit.
Yes.
I want us all to be, I'm really obsessed right now. You had asked, the Middle East is driving me crazy. I wish that I could I wish that I could have drama workshops across Jerusalem and East Jerusalem and Palestine. And I had the pleasure of having the most wonderful student from Palestine in my L2 drama class this last semester. And we've decided that if we could just take our show on the road, we could help things over there. But this came out of, I was a guest speaker at the English Teachers Association of Israel a couple of years ago. And so I did get to go, and the invitation of the US Embassy, it was very powerful. And one of my duties there was to speak to teachers in a relatively, not new, but a program, a diplomacy school program that purposely selected youth from Jewish populations, Arab, Israeli populations, and Palestinian populations all in the same school. And it was called the diplomacy program. They're learning English. And I was there to teach a poetry workshop. So I get there, it was really nice. And they say, Misha, you have, my nickname is Misha, by the way. So even though Melisa is my name, people call me Misha. Misha, you have to wait to do the workshop because they have an urgent need the administrator has to come and speak to the teachers. Well, I had no idea that the talk was going to tell them that the funding for their English program was cut. No. And many people would be losing positions. This is right before I'm supposed to do a workshop with these teachers in Israel. Oh my God, pandemonium. Yes. Israeli, Arabs, Jews, and Palestinians are very dramatic people. And when they're angry, you know it. So there was no way I was going to do a poetry workshop. It just wasn't the mood. So I went through quickly my improvisational mind. I was like, what game could we play? And I have a game in the book called Do You Like Your Neighbor? Oh. It's very fun. You know this game?
No, but I can see how it can work with with Palestinian-Israeli conflict right now.
Oh my God. So it's just a lovely, fun, it's a warm-up game. It's a classic theater game that is often played in drama schools, but we turned it into something else. We really we played together to release some of the stress that they were experiencing. The game is you sit in a circle and you stand up and ask somebody in the circle, do you like their neighbor? And the answer is either yes or no. And if it's no, then the two people have to change chairs that are the neighbors. And the person in the middle tries to get one of the chairs. So it's like a, role-playing game.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then the answer yes is yes, but I don't like people who wear dangly earrings. So everybody who perceives that they're wearing dangly earrings has to stand up from their chair and find another place to sit. And that's another opportunity for the person in the middle to find a new chair. Anyway, it changed everybody's mood. And we were able to talk about what it means to be a good neighbor, what it means to communicate through tension and struggle with humor and play. And it just was transformative. So I think that if we can get to those spaces of play and humor, we can start to understand and care about each other a little bit more. And maybe that's part of the tick to changing this darn conflict in the world. I don't know. Maybe it's just naive. I'm sure it is.
No, it's good hope. Right? It's getting people to see that there is humanity in their enemy changes things, right? And
Beautiful.
humanity happens through laughing, right? It's like the first door conversation. Let's just laugh and smile and joke around, and then let's have a real conversation, right? Now that you know me as a person, now that we just laugh together, well, what's really going on? Is this really worth it fighting like this way, right?
Yeah. So you can play that game in any classroom anywhere, but like if you add the layer of that kind of messaging, that if we can play and laugh together, maybe we can love and learn to live with each other. We don't have to love each other. Maybe we just learn to live with each other. That would be a real accomplishment.
Right. You're really saying you're integrating SEL within the instruction. So I see multiple layers. I see language development, I see content, but I also see SEL at the end, right?
What is that? You said SEL?
Yeah, social emotional learning.
Oh,
Yeah, so you're already adding that. You're intentionally teaching kids not just the content, but you're intentionally teaching kids how to deal with their emotions and experiences and how to self-monitor. Right?
yeah. And then put a circle around all of that, which is consciousness and agency, that like we are all always acting within larger social structures that limit what we think we can say and do, and that we have the potential to break through those limits, at least on the micro interactional level. And sometimes we can do it on a larger macro institutional level.
Right. And it starts with kids, because kids own the future.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about a few more games? But before we go a few more games, can I talk about the so that do I like your neighbor? Someone's in the middle, everyone's in a circle, and someone says, do you like your neighbor? And if they say no, you move, right?
The two people on either side, the two neighbors have to change chairs.
Yes.
With the race for the person in the middle to grab one of those chairs.
Right. And then when does the dangly earring part come in?
So then if you say, do you like your neighbor? And the answer, instead of being no, is yes, then you can't say yes. You have to say, but. Yes, but I don't like people who speak many languages. And then or speak more than one language. And then everybody who meets that criteria, they decide for themselves. We never say you can't make someone move. It's fun. People enjoy. They're waiting on the edge of their seats. Kids are like, what are they going to say? What are they going to say? And if you're with language learners, you can make it really limited to like items of clothing. You can have all the words on the board to help the kids access what they need to know. So they play within the limits of their vocabularies. It's much more, it's expansive and terrific if they can use all their language resources and just have fun. But, I don't like people with brown hair or dark hair. I don't like people who, but I don't like people who have backgrounds of kitchens in their Zoom screen. Oh my God. That I would be seated, you would be getting up. Yes, I don't like people, but I don't like people wearing collared shirts.
That'd be you.
Good. And it's just fun.
It is. It's very similar to the Big Wind Blows. I've heard that game before.
Yes.
Can you share a few more games with us?
Yeah. So another one I always play, I don't know where to back up. Here, I'll just start with this one. So I'll take any object. Usually I'll have a cloth, a plain white piece of fabric that I take with me, but this is I'm getting ready for the 4th of July in the United States. So this is my scarf, but the game I call it is, this is my blanket. So whatever the object is that you start with, it can be when I play it on Zoom, I have everybody get a pen. Do you have a pen or pencil with you?
I do.
Okay. What is that? That's a pen. Okay. Yes. So I'm going to try to match your kind of pen. Let's see. Do you have any other, you have a pencil by any chance, or just a pen?
Just a pen, but we can pretend this is a
Okay,
pencil.
well, this is similar enough.
Oh
We
yeah,
both have pen.
yeah.
Okay, so this is my pen. Well, you're gonna actually, if you would say this is my pen and hand it to me on the Zoom screen, then I'll demonstrate and we'll play it. And I'm gonna say that was your pen, but this is my, and I'm gonna change it.
Object. Okay. This is
And
my
I'm gonna
pen.
take, yes, okay.
Okay. This
This
is
is
my
your pen.
pen. Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to take your pen from you and you put yours down out of the screen so it looks like I'm taking it. Oh, okay. Thank you, Tan. So now I have your pen, but I'm going to change it and I'm going to say, this was your pen, but it's my baby snail. It's my baby snail. So then I'm going to give it to you and you're going to pick up you're going to pretend like I'm handing you my baby snail. And you need to say, this was your baby snail. And you need to do what I'm doing. So you need to look at my action, say, this was your baby snail. So I'm going to give it to you. This is my baby snail. Yeah.
Why, thank you. This was your baby snail.
Oh,
Now, this is my uh, squiggly little snake.
oh, squiggly little snake. Oh, can I have it?
Yes. Oh, here, take it.
Oh, thank you. Oh, this was your squiggly little snake, but now it's my mini refrigerator with my breakfast in it. Oh. Do you see how it goes? So, I
Yes.
mean, it can be anything.
So cute. You definitely
Scene.
have. You have a the actress came out of you, right? I love that.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
guess
and it's great.
good.
Well, I was just going to say, every language learner, when you don't have a word, you're always miming it, right? You're always using gestures. I remember being in France and I know Spanish, so I know that the
Serviette.
Spanish word for napkin is servieta, and I didn't know what it was in France. And I was really tired of getting things wrong, applying Spanish to French. So I just said, I need, this. And when she said serviette, I could have died because I was like, I could have got that one.
Because it's a cognate.
Yes, but I was so tired of getting false cognates all the time. I
I
thought, oh,
know.
I just gonna perform this one out. So, gestures are really like being able to physically mime things is
Right.
really useful as a language learner.
Right, right. Because this is the output part. Like I can say, I remember teaching a Chinese student, and he was just a beginner in Chinese, and we were teaching him balance and unbalance in science class, right? Because he had to go do an experiment, and I said, okay, come here, Zhang Hong, Google Translate, open it up. I typed the word balance in, and I showed him this is balance in Chinese. He looked at the screen, he said balance, I got it, and then I typed in the word unbalance, and then I said, here are my hands. Now this is unbalanced, but this is also unbalanced, and this is balance. And then I put out my hands and I said, "Can you show me unbalanced?" And he pushed one of my hands down, and the other one went up. And I was like, "Yes." And so that's what's an easy way to have kids comprehend, but also to understand. And then he immediately, once we finished, we walked to the science station, and he applied his understanding of balance and unbalance.
Fantastic. And what fun would that be to play with the whole group? Show me with one leg balance and unbalance. I mean, show me with however it would be.
Yes, yes.
Terrific. And then they'll never forget that concept again.
Right.
You know, such
I was thinking when you're talking about concepts, like there are concepts that are really hard, like systems. In my grade six, I was teaching them like systems, ecosystems, they work together, things are in balance and unbalanced. And at the end of the unit, I wanted them to do something that was fun to spend the day. And I had them do TikTok dances. You know how they have like these random TikTok dances? And I said,
yeah.
okay, I'm going to do this in the beginning of the year. Next year, I'll say, I want you to create a TikTok dance that's 30 seconds with your partner to show me balance at the beginning, imbalance, and then come back to balance.
Oh, best. You're a
Yes.
natural.
Oh,
Yes, that's fantastic. That's
so it's
so terrific.
great.
So
And
many
kids,
ways.
right? Because I could have. I mean, I struggled to show them what a system is, because conceptually that was hard for them, right? But then when I
Mhm.
had them do like, hey, TikTok, the kids who struggled academically outperformed everyone else, right? Because they
Exactly.
because they have that like their I guess dramatization provides a differentiated way for kids to be successful.
Yeah.
Right.
And you knew to pick a technology that is appealing. Like that's where I'm struggling as an older academic, where I'm trying to keep up with, what is the other one? It's like it's an app, Snapchat.
Snapchat. Yeah.
Like, my daughter is so into Snapchat, and like, these are things that are just beyond me, but I'm trying memes, all that stuff.
So, can you share with us two more games and then we'll end the podcast?
Yeah. So ABC bye or ABC die.
Oh,
Some people don't like to talk about death, but I think death is super fun. And as you know, if you learn Spanish in Mexico, death is everywhere. Kids have a great deal of fun doing death. So we'll do that version, but I do want to offer that it can be ABC bye as well, which is sometimes just as fun and safe. But this game is this is for maybe more proficient users of a language. I've done it with very young children whose language was English as a first language, to older second language learners. And you set up a scene, you endow a scene. So one of the tenets of improv is to endow every scene with meaning. So, and usually an improv troupe will ask the audience, what is our relationship? What is the relationship between these two characters? Or what are they doing? Where are they in space and time? So if I were to ask you to give an endowment for a scene, tell me something you could do, an indoor sport. What would be?
An indoor sport would be bowling with a ball with little cans. Right.
Perfect. Bowling. So just bowling.
Yes.
So we're going to do a scene together, you and I, and we don't know who's going to start. I'm going to start us by, and we're going to alternate with the first word we say is going to start with the letter A. So every alternating line of dialogue alternates letters of the alphabet going from A to Z. So, and the scene that we are doing is bowling.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we don't know who is going to speak first. I'm going to count down, and then the two of us are going to have a conversation about bowling, and each one of us is going to alternate between letters. And the person who messes up, we don't know if we're even going to keep track. Usually you have to do this with at least 3 people. We're going to try. Then you have to have a death by that letter. When we mess up, it's super fun. Okay. And messing up is when there's too long of a pause or you skip a letter, and we both have to be good teachers and tell each other when that happens.
Okay.
Because it's much more fun if we mess up. So hopefully we'll mess up.
Okay.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, scene.
I almost got the strike of 8.
Buddy, almost doesn't count in bowling. It's get it or don't get it and get off the team.
Well, can I find a different team?
So technically, I will say die because you started with well. You didn't know it. But you started with well. Can I get a different team? So okay. So then it's scene, and we have to die by the letter C. So we're gonna die by cats scratching us. Okay. Exactly.
It's fun.
Oh, you should see. All age kids love this. And sometimes if they're nervous or shy or lower level in language, I'll have 2 kids help, maybe a stronger one be behind, giving some ideas. You can, it doesn't have to be that you're always alone, but they just love it. Right. Love it. Right. And then they can script it if they want. And, it's just fun.
Right. I can hear teachers saying, well, these are lovely games. Where's the content in this? Like, how can we make this structured for the content part? Because I feel like that's the last thing we have to address.
Yeah. So, like I said, with that game, you could start it just basically proficiency as the goal. Yes. And having fun, and then have kids work in small groups or individually and script out, working on their writing, a scene that alternates letters A to Z. It's just giving a small constraint, because you could say, write a scene with 2 people bowling, go. Yes. But having that added constraint of that every line has to start with another letter. And maybe you have one group the A to D and another group do E to M, or however. And then performing for each other. So I think you're practicing fluency,
Yes.
vocabulary. You can say, do something that builds on a literature unit. So a scene that has to do with a moment in history for social studies, or a concept. I've had a lot of people in the science education world have scenes within the rhizome or the cell, and different characterizations of these different parts to understand an abstract system. So there's all kinds of ways. In math, we had a kind of charades game with geometry shapes,
Yes.
form a cylinder with your bodies, form a square with your bodies. There's just so much room for creativity. And I think that once you get started, there's no stopping.
Right.
And the way in which the impact of those activities in terms of ownership of the knowledge is so much stronger than memorizing something for a test or hearing it once. Rehearsing it with your friends and having fun is a way it really sticks, and you own that information for a lifetime.
Ugh. So I hear what you're saying as we can add the content to any of the strategies or the games that you're sharing in your book. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think teachers need more rehearsal in their own creative abilities to adapt and make right for their purpose. Like
Right.
I just think we've trained teachers, we've scared ourselves so much that we have to do what we're told to do,
Yes.
that we need to learn how to take some of our own creative freedoms back safely, which includes, includes lesson planning. So we know ourselves that that's a very important question for every teacher to ask. What does this have to do with learning? You have to ask that question.
Right. Right. Because if
Lots
not,
of
it'll
ways.
just be an activity. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I am so excited to get this book and just share it with other teachers because it can sometimes lessons can feel dull, and this is a way to add liveliness to it, which the title is Enlivening Your Class Instruction with Drama. So I love that. And I think this is going to be an opportunity for us to scaffold, but also different instruction for multilinguals in a way that isn't just restrictive.
I hope so. I hope so. I'd love to hear from anyone who uses it. I can't wait to start hearing feedback. It just came out, so.
And I know that you have videos embedded into the book, so people can go and see it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's links in the book. So if you buy the book online, you can just touch that link and it opens up the video.
Nice.
And they're also written out in the book. And I have a YouTube channel. I have many YouTube channels. But if you Google my name, Melisa Cahnmann-Taylor, on YouTube, one of the channels is Improv Education or Improv Language Education. And you'll see the kind of collection that I have going there.
Well, I will make sure to tweet it out and also put it in the show notes. Let's end with a metaphor that I always end the podcast with. It's called traffic light teaching. So red light, what is something that you will stop doing? Like you recommend that teachers stop doing? Yellow light is what do you ask teachers to start doing? Right? And then green light is what is something you ask the teachers to continue doing?
Oh my God. Okay. I'm starting with green light.
Sure.
I want permission. Green light. Love your job and your kids. The joy. Just keep harvesting the joy of having an impact on the world. There's nothing more meaningful than teaching young people to come into themselves and come into the world with hope and knowledge and the ability to keep learning. So just green light, green light. Yellow light, start. This is not a, it's weird to work backwards because then I think slow down. I guess slow down and start to cultivate your own inner learner again. I think we get trapped in teaching of having to know and direct and control. And so start slowing down and co-learning, experiencing the joy of something new with your students, and the joy of being unsure, that's something they're experiencing every day. So if you can start with something you're not sure about, which may include theater or poetry or any other of the arts, then it models for the students how you're a lifelong learner.
Yes.
Yeah. And red light, stop beating yourself up and thinking you can't do it. Anyone can do it. Don't think you're going to go to Broadway when it reopens, although I'm hoping to go and sit in one of those beautiful comfy seats and see a play again. But don't say I can't, because we say in improv theater, it's very important to say yes and, not to say yes but, even though I played a game with yes but yes and, what can I do so that I can enjoy this thing that I don't know much about? Yes. And so that's what I would say.
This has been a pleasure talking to you, Dr. Melisa Cahnmann-Taylor. We're so excited to share, to bring a little bit of magic that is happening in the drama classes into our content and language classes. So thank you for making that happen and being our co-teacher in this experience.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful and look forward to hearing from the audience.